everyone, it's Evangeline here at eTrailer, and today we're going to be taking a look at and I'll show you how to install your Yakima Roof Rack system on your 2022 Toyota Highlander. If you're looking for a sleek, easy to use roof rack system so that you can carry around fun accessories like kayaks or a bike rack, or even expand your cargo space with a roof box or roof basket, well, our Yakima Roof Rack here is going to be a good option for you. Something very unique to the Yakima Skyline system is how easy it is to take off and reattach. So you just pull the end cap so you can lift it off of the landing pad, and you even get little storage covers to put on top so that you have a very sleek system. So this keeps the functionality of having a roof rack, but if you don't want the roof rack on, you can take it right off. What I've found though with the Highlander is there really isn't a reason to take off your crossbars, because look at the roof of the car. Here we have our window and none of the crossbars sit over that, so you have full visibility at all times. The only time you would cover it is if you have cargo or let's say a large kayak loaded on the roof. Also, with the length of the crossbar, it still stays unobtrusive, meaning it doesn't stick out that far. So a measurement for that is actually called overhang. That's from the tower to right before the end cap, and this has 2 inches of overhang, which is on the short size. Other measurements important to know are roof clearance measurements. The first one is going to be how much space do you have between the roof and the crossbar. This sits relatively high up at 3 5/8 of an inch of clearance. So that's if you have clamps that go around the crossbar, do you have space for that, especially U-bolts and wing nuts. This has plenty of space. The next is going to be how much height does this add to the top of the roof. So roof to top of crossbar, I have it at 4 5/8 of an inch. So that is going to be where your cargo sits. So let's say you have skis with extra tall bindings. You want enough clearance so you don't scratch up your roof. In our case here, plenty of clearance. These are the core bars. So they're going to be an aerodynamic bar, and you can see how they taper in order to create less wind drag and noise. I personally think that they look very sleek, plus they're very sturdy. Now, the one downside to core bars are that they do not have a T-channel up top. If you really want to mount your T-track accessories, that's when you start looking at the Yakima Jetstream crossbars instead. But for items that have clamps that go around the bar, this will work. This is going to be a fixed system to your flush rail, meaning there's a very specific point that this bolts down to, which is awesome because then you have a very secure roof rack. But there is a downside to it, and that is you can't adjust the bars back and forth, meaning for certain accessories, you have to double check your crossbar spread. So measuring from the front of one crossbar to the other, I have a 31-inch crossbar spread measurement. Things to look out for are going to be roof boxes and roof bike racks especially, so just double check that 31-inch capacity. Your roof rack consists of 3 separate components: your crossbars, your towers, and then the custom fit kit for your Toyota Highlander. Another thing you can get separately is metal lock cores for your towers. Those are going to be a ways to get everything key-like and locked with a key. Now the custom fit kit is going to be for your Toyota Highlander. We sell this entire system as a full kit paired together, so I do highly recommend using our fit guide here at etrailer.com, that we don't have to worry about mixing and matching. We have it all kitted together for you. So this was a look at the rack itself. Let me show you how to install it. For your install process, we have all the parts laid out. Most of everything you need is included with the kit. The only thing not included is going to be a screwdriver, and if you want, a tape measure for when you install the bars. So the first thing we're going to do is actually set up our vehicle. On your Highlander, there will be 4 fixed mounting points covered by a plastic cap. So get your flathead screwdriver, carefully pry off that cap, and then you will see that there is a nut on the inside that we're going to use. Get your landing pad bases, and they will either have an A or a B on them. The A's go on front driver's side and rear passenger side, and the B's are the other ones. You'll also be able to figure out if it's the correct one, if the cutout fits well into the cutout of your vehicle, and if the holes line up. So once that's in place, sits nice and smoothly, you then fit your base up and over it. See how that sits? And then you're gonna get your bolt and your flat washer. That drops in and through, and you tighten it down with the included Allen wrench. So do this process for all 4 corners. Going back to your parts, we're going to install or assemble the towers. So these are gonna be our parts for the Yakima core bar. Depending on your crossbars, you may have a different process. You start by opening up the tower, and then we're gonna look at this bolt up top. Get your appropriate adapter and fit it over the bolt. And see how it now is in place where it will pivot back and forth, but it won't come out. You're then gonna turn the tower over. So you were gonna see an opening for the bolt there. If you can't see it, then that means you need to loosen the bolt up front first. Once that's loose, turn the tower back over, and you can now see that bolt. You're then going to get the core bar collars. Now they do have an angle or shape to them, so a good way to figure out which way they're supposed to be installed onto your tower is just hold up the core bar, see where it fits, and then have it sit onto the tower. So to secure it, we're just gonna fit it over that bolt, pivot this back around, tighten it back down, and you're gonna tighten these until they click. With the collars on the towers, you can then slide the tower onto the crossbar. Now, if you find it a little tricky to fit the tower on there, there's 2 things you can do. The first is to loosen the bolt over by the cap. And the second is, if it's still tricky, go ahead and loosen that middle bolt. Once you have it in the general area you want it to go, you can then tighten down that middle bolt. Your tower will still be able to be adjusted and slide, but I just found this so much easier in order to get them into place. So do that for all 4 towers. Now get your crossbar onto your roof. To make sure it's facing the right way, make sure that the crossbar is taller up front and tapered towards the back. We're then going to fit this into those landing pads. This is much easier with a second person, but definitely doable on your own. Notice how I moved the tower over so that I can fit it into the pad. We're also going to take our measurement for this overhang here on each side just to make sure that it's level or even with each other before we tighten down. For the front crossbar, very even. For the rear crossbar, we did need to adjust the slant before we tighten down on the bar. So to adjust the slants, you can look over at the bolt. So as you pivot to the crossbar back and forth, you can see how that bolt is moving too. So if I push it a tad bit forward, we can see that the tower sits flush on the landing pad. So holding it in that position, I'm then going to tighten down with our included tool. So something I've found that helps out is if you tighten both sides evenly. So go about 50% on one side, 75% on the other. Go back and forth until you have good tension all throughout. Tighten down until your torque tool clicks, and then double check that all the bolts click the same way. And then you're going to secure the system by pushing up on that end cap, which secures it in the landing pad. And then the final step here is to attach your end cap to your crossbar. that goes on all four sides. And bonus step is if you do want to switch out your plastic lock cores on your towers for metal lock cores sold separately, now is the perfect time to do that before finishing out your install. And that right there was a look at the Yakima Roof Rack system with the 50-inch long Yakima core bars, the Yakima Skyline towers, and the custom fit kit for your 2022 Toyota Highlander.